everyone, it's your librarian Melissa, and today I will be reading you the book Excuse Me. Frog loved to eat, and Frog loved to burp. Already on the first page, it looks like he has let out a huge burp, and I think he must have just had something to eat because here he is holding a fork. So he ate, and then he burped. Do you know how to burp? I have to tell you the truth, I do not know how to burp. Can you burp? Blurp. That's the best I can do. All right, so Frog loved to eat, and Frog loved to burp. When Frog was just a tadpole, or a baby frog, he ate a lot and burped freely. Wherever he went, townsfolk would comment, "What a good eater! Oh, how cute! Just like his father," they said. As Frog grew, so did his appetite. He ate more and he burped more. And Frog ate everything. We can see pictures of him growing up, and in each of the pictures, he is farting. Not farting, burping. Even when he was a little baby in his bassinet or sitting outside as a baby, he would burp. And it looks like he won some kind of a contest. First place, it says the Great Annual Frog Jam Fly Pie Eating Contest. So he must have ate it really fast and then burped it all up. He snacked on fly noodles and cricket tacos. He gulped down worm burgers and dragonfly soup. Enthusiastic burping, thought Frog, not only feels good, but also makes room for dessert. I have to tell you, I have never had a cricket taco, but I knew somebody that did. And have you ever had a worm burger? If I've ever seen worms in a burger, I would think it went bad, but maybe a frog would eat it. As Frog got older, he began to notice that not everyone appreciated his burping as much as he did. At first, they held napkins up to their faces and looked away. Ahem, folks said. Has that ever happened to you when you burped? Have you ever just burped so loud, blurp, that grown-ups said, "Oh my goodness," or tried to cover their face and say, ahem? So at first it says people held napkins to their faces and looked away, but I wonder if they got even more angry later on. One time, after a delicious dinner and a huge burp, Frog's friends actually got up from the table and left. "Yuck!" they cried as they all stormed out the door. And here's Frog letting out a huge burp, and his friends ran away so quickly. Here are their feet running away. They ran so quickly that they knocked over a chair on the way down, because they couldn't get away fast enough from his big, huge burp. And then it must have gotten worse, because finally the townsfolk reached their limit. Mr. Mayor called a meeting. "Something has to be done," he said. They took a vote and decided to send Frog up the river. So usually sending someone up the river means you would send them to jail, but in this case, I think they just kicked Frog out of town. Can you imagine having a burping problem so bad that the town took a vote to kick you out just for burping? That's what happened to Frog. Frog was sad and confused. He packed a big lunch, waved goodbye, and left for his journey. So he doesn't sound very happy to be kicked out of town. Along the way, Frog grew hungry and stopped to eat. After a tasty meal, a loud burp, and a long nap, Frog awoke to a faint, familiar sound in the distance. Curious, he followed the sound. As Frog got closer, he realized it was the sound of burping. happy, beautiful burping. Why do you think he called it happy, beautiful burping? Well, maybe it's because in his own town, people didn't like burping very much. But now that he hears other people or other frogs burping, he thinks it sounds beautiful. This looks like the other frogs that might be off in the distance with the burp air coming out. And there are even musical notes around the burp clouds because Frog thinks it sounds so beautiful and happy. He wandered into the town and saw new frogs of all shapes, sizes, and colors eating and burping freely. Frog was excited. The new frogs welcomed him with open arms and stinky burps. So they didn't seem to judge him for burping so much, now did they? Frog jumped right in. They dined on centipede soufflés and ladybug stew. Burp! They devoured mosquito pies and moths a la mode. Burp! The frogs burped all day. The frogs burped all night. The frogs even burped while they slept. Burp! Shoo! Burp! Shoo! Frog was thrilled to be eating and burping with his new friends. But he soon discovered that they never stopped burping, and they never said, "Excuse me." Frog became disgusted. So remember how Frog's friends were grossed out that he used to burp so much? Now he's starting to notice it's kind of gross when other frogs burp a lot and don't even say, "Excuse me." One day, Frog was sitting in the cafe, eating and trying to keep his burps to himself when he saw a flyer on the wall for the great annual Frog Jam in his hometown. Now that was what we saw on the first page of the book. If you remember, on the second page of the book was a ribbon that he won at the fair for eating a pie. So that must be the fair that he saw a flyer to. It was Frog's favorite event. Frog decided he had to go home. But how is he going to go home if he got kicked out? Won't they notice that he came back? What is he going to do about that? Nervous that he would not be welcome, he wore a disguise. So he tried to change his appearance so they wouldn't know it was him. So notice that he's wearing these funny-looking glasses, big nose, big mustache, so he won't look like himself. And maybe they won't know it's him. So now he can go back to town for the fair. At the Frog Jam, things were hopping. The smell of exotic foods filled the air. Frog's mouth watered in anticipation as he strolled over to the food stands. A crowd was gathered around his favorite three-beetle chili. Mr. Mayor, Mrs. Mayor, and Baby Mayor were slurping it down by the gallons. Frog joined in and ate so much, so fast, that a large burp almost escaped. Frog tried to hold it back. Uh-oh. Sounds like Frog needs to burp again, but he got kicked out for burping too much. But then, Baby Mayor let out a gigantic burp. "Excuse me," he said in a small voice. And Mr. and Mrs. Mayor don't look too angry. So are they okay with burps once in a while if somebody says, "Excuse me"? One by one, the crowd struck up a chorus of burps. They couldn't help it. Even Mr. Mayor and Mrs. Mayor were burping. A three-beetle chili cloud hung in the air. And this is the cloud of air from everyone burping after eating the three-beetle chili. "Excuse me," they all cried. Frog could not keep it down any longer. Uh-oh, Frog needs to burp. Blurp! The burp was so big, his disguise flew off. And here are his glasses flying in the air, his nose flying in the air, and his fake mustache all flying in the air. The crowd gasped. Excuse me, said Frog. Frog, Mr. Mayor declared, you are excused. The townsfolk cheered. They were glad to have Frog back, and Frog was happy to finally be home. Frog still loved to eat, and Frog still loved to burp. But Frog decided that he loved having his friends most of all. So even though he was excited before that he went to a new town where he met other frogs that burp, he seems happier at home where he could still burp once in a while, burp, as long as he said, excuse me, afterwards. Nobody seemed to be as angry with him because they really missed him and his burping. Or even though he burps. Maybe they didn't miss the burp, but they still missed him. And on the last page, we have none other than a ladybug saying, burp, excuse me.